Welcome back to the Healthy Mouth Movement Podcast. Today, my guest is Tiffany Ludwick, a dental hygienist, health coach, and myofunctional therapist who resides in Newfoundland, Canada. She obtained her diploma in dental hygiene from Dalhousie University with the greatest proficiency in dental hygiene clinic with the highest overall standing for lab and head and neck anatomy. She's been actively involved in her profession and currently holds an elected position as the president of the Canadian Dental Hygiene Association. She returned from maternity leave to assist with the public in raising the need for preventive oral health care practices. And she independently practices at Monastery Oral Health, which is a multidisciplinary practice. Her dental hygiene career primarily began in gum disease in a specialty clinic, which sparked her interest in holistic health and her own journey in health coaching. She also practices natural therapy modalities through Mind Body Health, which she founded in 2018. She initially founded and started focusing on women's confidence, self-worth, and overall happiness, and it involved helping the whole family. This shift in her audience occurred during her pregnancy, where she was introduced to a wonderful collective of MDs, professionals, working with babies and new moms who needed her expertise. She had obtained a certificate in myofunctional therapy after years of learning about airway, breathing, function, nutrition, so she could provide this type of therapy that has been missing in our current healthcare system. Today, she supports people through personal appointments online, consults with therapy, and she can be found at mindbodyhealth.net or on Facebook and Instagram at mindbodymouth, all one word. So Tiffany, thank you for joining us, and I'm so happy to have you here to talk about myofunctional therapy and things that are needed in our healthcare system now. As we were talking about earlier, we were talking about our healthcare system and how it treats the sick, and it doesn't necessarily treat healthy people, and it doesn't talk about prevention. We're all about going to see a doctor when something bothers us. We wait until we see the symptoms, or we ignore symptoms that we're having before we seek help. So this is just a new path that we're forging and creating, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad that you reached out, and I'm happy to be here and shed a little bit of information and help the public in understanding the difference between prevention and intervention, and really focusing on living optimally, like living our best life. One thing that I always think about is that our society now, we live to an older age, but we're not really living longer. We're just dying longer with so many chronic diseases out there. So what I really want to focus on, and what I've found for myself, is ways to feel better every single day and have the energy to live life and live longer instead of die longer.
That's very well said. I love that.
So again, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about myofunctional therapy. Even though it's not new, it's becoming a little more mainstream and knowledgeable with the amount of sleep apnea issues, I think, is really what's helped forge this forward. But also oral health for total health. And yeah, working as dental hygienists, we're focused on prevention. And we've always had the opportunity to promote good oral health and overall health. It's just we tend to be put into this little box of cleaning teeth when there's so much more to what a dental hygienist can do. And this is one part of the scope that is showing up in different areas of the country and the world.
Absolutely.
However, it's not owned by dental hygiene. I do natural therapy, so I don't do it as a dental hygienist, but speech language pathologist, physiotherapists, there's many different modalities that can help people with this, with their journey. So.
And as you and I have both found out, not all practitioners are created equal, and they don't all treat the whole body. They treat signs and symptoms. And so that's where I found you, was because I was just looking. I recently have gone through breast cancer, and I was looking for alternative care and functional medicine. And that's where I came across you on Instagram. So I was totally excited. And that's why I wanted to interview you, because we have like-minded things that we have gone through, but in different circumstances. So it led us to doctors that are all about treating your body as a whole. And so I think that that is exciting for our future and the futures of young moms out there that are having kids. You are one of those moms that have a young child. My daughter is 16. So a lot of this stuff I didn't find out until after. Like I sucked my thumb till I was 12. And I was like, my daughter is not going to suck her thumb. Well, she didn't suck her thumb. She sucked her two fingers, which was a harder habit to break, and why I first found myofunctional therapy, which was years ago, but not until she was 7. And she was bedwetting, and they were telling me it was other things. And then I was going to a urologist because I was getting up and going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and not sleeping. And when I went through myofunctional therapy, I learned about mouth taping. And when I started taping my mouth, I sleep through the night. I don't get up anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a dental hygienist. How did I not know this? And for years I've been treating my bladder when it was my mouth that was keeping me up at night.
Yeah, it's really crazy. We don't realize how much, like, we know bleeding gums, but we're not connecting how our airway is affected. And if we're not getting into deep sleep because we're breathing through our mouth, then when we fall into deep sleep, we paralyze. And we should paralyze. And we have these hormones in us that actually stop us from needing the bathroom. But if you don't get into that, then you'll wake up. So even waking up once in a night is early sign, especially if you can, connect that with snoring as well. And we just think, oh yeah, snoring because, I was really tired, or yeah, I drank a lot of water before I went to bed, so I need to pee. And sure, these things are okay sometimes, but when it's a consistent chronic thing, these are the first signs of our body saying, hey, something is going on. And, we would not ignore the check engine light on our car. If we were driving down the highway, we started to smell smoke, yet we snore, we have high blood pressure, we're waking up tired. Like this isn't optimal. Like these are the engine lights to our own body. So the first step is awareness.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think what started me even being more passionate about this was COVID and wearing masks and still working and seeing even friends and family with their gums starting to have more gingivitis and breathing through their mouth during the day, even with the mask, because we're pinching and we're touching our face. And, it's really brought this even more into a need because more and more people are mouth breathing and they're not even aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things about being a health coach, which is great, is I have training, like I said, in the other alternative modalities, breath work, forms of meditation, relaxation, um, wearing the mask, especially like we wear glasses, we have to pinch even more because our glasses fog up. And myself, even with training, catch myself breathing through my mouth. And I have to stop that because, yeah, not only you're drying out your mouth, so that's what's leading to bleeding gums and cavities. You don't have that natural defense that your body knows. Our body can heal itself. And believe it or not, with our mouth closed, our body is healing itself. With our mouth open, our body is harming ourselves. Our mouth should be for eating and speaking, not for breathing. It's an emergency vessel. And if your body is breathing through the mouth, it's in stress mode without you even thinking it. Your body is stressed. You're not rest and digest. Your body's not healing. Your body is really only creating more of the free radicals, the things that actually cause wrinkles. And that leads to, let's say cancers and chronic disease. So close that mouth. That's one of the main things, that one of the main focuses of myofunctional therapy actually is to retrain your mind, make awareness of the different things that we're doing that are actually harming ourselves without us even knowing.
Right, exactly. And I think that a lot of people don't even know to look for that because breathing, I mean, and the two things, this is like the part of our body that are the two, we have to breathe and we have to eat to survive. Yet it's not something that we focus on when it comes to overall health. We focus on diet and exercise. And so I think we're kind of missing one of the puzzle pieces. And what we do with our mouth and how we take care of it needs to definitely be more on our radar of what to look at, especially in our kids before the age of 7.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying how I'm a new mom. I do have a 9-month-old beautiful baby girl, and she does suck her thumb. I actually really jumped into myofunctional therapy, like I mentioned, getting certified and finishing the program when I found out about her, and my doctor was asking me questions about her own patients that she couldn't answer. And so she was coming to me, and I was putting all these pieces together, and I'm like, these women, these moms, they're not getting help. They're not getting support. And then, so when my baby was born and she sucked her thumb, which is good at a child's, especially if the baby's a preemie, which mine's not, it's actually an essential part of their growth and development, but it should stop over time. It does become parafunctional, so not a good thing over time. So it's not something to, alarm bells like, oh my God, my baby sucks her thumb, it's the worst thing in the world. It's not, as long as we have the proper interventions and, and that we don't just, if your baby sucks a thumb, they can go to a specialist and they put a device in their mouth, which prevents them. But that's the baby's mechanism for self-soothing. You take that away, that could lead to mental issues down the road, emotional dysregulation. Mm-hmm. So, myofunctional therapy will help your child break these habits, have proper optimal growth patterns and facial development without the psychological distress that an appliance could cause. So, speaking with the doctor and her really letting me know the need out there has really put a fire under me, and want to get this information out there, really speak with professionals. And that's hard too. Professionals aren't open to learning about this because if they don't know it fully, they can't answer their patients' questions, and they need to feel like they are encompassing all of their knowledge. And so people will learn about this, but not implement it and not teach their clients about it because they don't know enough about it. And so it's really unfortunate that, like, I have reached out to so many people, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. So many professionals that ignore my emails, ignore my calls because they don't know enough about it. And so they, unfortunately, it's the patients that are suffering. It's those children that are suffering. And then it's those parents that are suffering because they're not getting the proper sleep, because their child's not getting the proper sleep. And then that's compounding and putting so many stresses on the whole family. And this is a pandemic in itself.
Exactly. And it's sad because, a lot of these things, like, again, like you said, you don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I temped for a long time. And a lot of these practices are telling parents to wait until all the baby teeth fall out before they see an orthodontist. But you and I know that you might need to see an orthodontist when they're 5, because there's different devices that you can give a child that are much like a mouth guard that can help expand their palate and put their tongue in the proper place. And they might not even need braces if you can get to them soon enough. But when you don't know what to look for and you don't know that it's out there and you're being told, oh, just wait, they're fine, that's normal, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And then you have conflicting information between professionals, and it's difficult and it's unfortunate. It is a new and evolving science, let's say. I guess it's not new, but it's new to our profession. And, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And, a couple of years ago, if you were to ask me about this, I would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's a difficult situation that we're in for our clients. But hopefully with more and more people experiencing it, word of mouth will be the way to grow this. And then it will make other professionals have to step it up.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I started out with, back in 2010, teaching dental hygienists how to be confident about what they were doing. And then that's when I transitioned into helping patients, because when I was temping, I'd have people asking me, and I'd see maybe 10 patients a day. And I'm thinking, okay, if half of the patients I see during the day don't know this stuff, how many people out there don't know that? If it's this little sector that I'm helping don't have this information, how many people don't have this information and could benefit from it? And so that's when I started educating myself. So I didn't put anything out there until I felt I was confident and had that information. So that is why dental professionals don't go out there, because they don't want to give you information that they might not be able to answer. So they just kind of put it aside. Even though you learn, it is hard to implement it, because a lot of people think, well, what does that have to do with my mouth? Or, why are you asking me these questions? So then when I start saying, are you feeling this or are you feeling this? I have patients say, how do you know that? And just by looking at them, you can tell that they're having problems. If they're tucked back or if their lips are open when they're sitting there with you, you can look at them and see that they're having issues, dark circles under their eyes. So they think you're amazing when you're asking them questions, and it's like, you get me, but it's written all over their face. You can see it when you look at them.
Yeah, one of the things that I just added to my website to help people is kind of along those lines, in the fact that signs and symptoms are there. We feel it, not as the professional, let's say, but we feel it as a person. Something's not right. They find myofunctional therapy years down the road when they've exhausted everything else. They're like, no, they're going to the doctor, their labs are coming back normal, which really is just normal is anything that's not diseased. So I get all of my clients to get baseline information when they're healthy. So then when they start to feel these symptoms 10 years down the road, the doctor might say they're normal, but you're like, well, that's not my normal. And I think that's what's really missing in our healthcare system. But yeah, the people find myofunctional therapy after they went to massage for years and years. Like, you're doing the same thing over and over again. You're putting the same stresses on your muscles. Let's correct that function instead of just putting that Band-Aid on. Okay, let's period of time. Let's do this again. And same with, chiropractic, and you go for headache problems, and you try appliances, you end up throwing it out in the middle of the night. And you're like, well, it's probably not really a tooth issue. It's something else in your stress system. It's not about your teeth, even though your teeth is where the symptom is. And, other people will get a bite plane and, that's the best thing ever. Oh my God, that helps my clenching. When really it's probably opening the airway and allowing you to sleep better. Had nothing to do with the biting. But that's a win for the dental, which is great because it's helping. But yeah, it tends to be, we tend to be one of those people that they've tried everything else and like, well, what do I got to lose? And then they're like, oh my God, these few things that I could be doing every day it could have solved my problems years ago. And
Exactly.
it's not even every day, because once it becomes habitual, we don't even think about it. We don't think about the way we breathe now. We don't think about the way that we chew and swallow now. So all we have to do is retrain the brain. It's no different than like a stroke person having to learn how to walk again. They do that. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of accountability, and really great people to help them.
Exactly. And it's habit. It's changing habits, and it takes 66 days to break a habit. So, we obviously don't do training for 66 days, but we give them the tools that they need to do to be able to live healthier lives. Because if you change your habit, you can change your life. And there's so many habits that we, even as dental professionals in oral myofunctional therapy, that's what we do. We work with habits and getting people to be aware: toothbrushing, flossing, breathing through your nose, even a tongue tie. If you're tongue tied as an infant, you might not latch. If you're tongue tied as a child, you might not be able to take your tongue and sweep your teeth and clean and gather all the food like you should. And, a lot of times we only treat, as dental professional, tongue ties that are class 4 tongue ties. We look
Right.
at class 2 tongue ties and we're like, oh, it's okay. But it could actually be affecting your posture, because your tongue pulls all the way through. So if you're humped over like that, it could be your tongue tie. You could get that released, and, the pain in your neck is gone. You can sit up more. And, I think a lot of times we're not looking at those little things either that could be causing some of the problems. We're just told, again, that that's normal. So
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I like to really address with people, especially let's say they're a child, um, what are the symptoms that a mom as a child or a baby should be aware of? Like, breastfeeding should not be painful. It shouldn't be. Yes, your baby might be able to latch and they might be growing. They don't have to, have failure to thrive in order to say, yes, let's fix this tongue tie. If you have pain, something is wrong there. The child is not being able to suction properly to put the nipple in the mouth the right way. So that's the first sign. Are they having reflux? How many babies are put on reflux medicine right now? Well, guess what? If they can't create that proper mouth closure, that proper suction for breastfeeding, they're taking in a lot of air. It's changing the pH of their stomach. Everything is unbalanced. They're not going to digest properly, and they're going to regurgitate as well. So then as you like, okay, well, it's fine. My baby's on medicine. They're doing good. What happens when they start eating real food and they're reverse to things? They're like, no, I won't take that. They're spitting it out or they're choking. Well, it's because their tongue is not doing the proper movements. And then, we start to hear it with speech, and we wait a couple of years with speech, and they see a speech pathologist when they're 4 or 5, the early signs of speech problem is the same issues with the breastfeeding, which is the same issues with learning to chew food and having food aversions. And, these are all things that are symptoms that, yes, there is likely a tie. Our tongue is the very first part to be formed with the other major organs in our body, and it's all connected and it opens up like this. So like we have this system inside of us, which wraps every muscle, every part of our body is wrapped up by this fascia, and our tongue has fascia right underneath it, which is connected down to our pelvis, actually down to our toe, if you want to get really specific. And yeah, and so, if we don't have that looseness there, if we have that restriction, yeah, it's going to cause problems, ringing in our ears, headaches, jaw problem, neck ache, shoulder aches, lower back pain, even issues in our knee. It could all be connected. And, think about those symptoms that I said when you were a baby and a child. If you fall into that category, or your child falls into that category, you should look into myofunctional therapy. And it doesn't matter if you're 40 years old right now or 60. If you want to prolong your life, you find yourself a myofunctional therapist and you retrain so you can enjoy the last 20 or 40 years of your life instead of getting more chronic pain.
Right. And you're right. So many people don't get to myofunctional therapy until after they've exhausted all their other possibilities, and they're like, okay, I'll try this.
Yeah.
And because it's not mainstream right now. I think that it will be, and it's coming, but I think it is not right now. And this is so exciting, the work that we are doing and connecting, like you said, our mind, our body to our health. So it's totally connected. And you also wrote an article about how people that are building up calculus in their mouth is even connected to a vitamin deficiency. So that's where food can help heal, or vitamins. But again, we're cleaning as dental hygienists. Some of us are just cleaning our teeth every 3 months, but not talking about what is the cause of what's causing this tartar buildup. Could it be something more? Could the gum disease that you're having, it not just be that you're having poor oral health or you're not brushing properly? It could be something else going on in your body, and it's a sign. Our mouth is a window into our body. So talk a little bit about that, the calculus in your mouth, and how it's connected to heart disease and the tartar.
Okay, that's yeah, I could go on like 5 different directions with this. So thank you for answering this, not just for hygienists who might be listening, but for clients who might be listening. Because, we all know, yeah, you get that lot of buildup down there underneath your tongue, which, yes, it's normal because that's where our salivary glands are. Some of them are down there, but gravity. So it's going to build up there faster. But there's some people that build it up really fast, and there's other people who come after 6 months and there's nothing, and they're doing the same thing. So they could be doing great. So you have to consider, okay, well, what is saliva? It's pretty much just kind of like filtered blood. It's part of our system, and then it's filled with enzymes and nutrients that will reduce the acid in our mouth. So it helps protect against cavities, because anytime we have anything sugary or anything acidic, that will start eating away at our teeth. So it will buffer that action. It's also filled with enzymes that when you chew, it breaks down the food before it makes it to our stomach. Like, our stomach doesn't have teeth. We need to take time chewing, chew properly, have that saliva really start working for us and help with digestion. And then the foods that we eat, the nutrients, like our teeth can remineralize. Like when we say, once you have a cavity, that's it. Well, then if we break a bone, our bone can heal, can it not? Right? Our teeth are living. There's 3 different layers to our teeth. And if we have the nutrients in our body to heal a bone, then we have the nutrients in our body to help fight against a cavity that has started, remineralize that. And that comes through nutrition. It comes through things like vitamin D, which if you ever want to talk about vitamin D, immune system, and health, that would be another topic. Yeah, that is a huge topic, especially with cytokine storms and COVID and health and everything. So, but yeah, so vitamin D, calciums, and magnesium, we need all of these things to help repair our bone. And so we need all of these things in our blood to get into our saliva, to get into our mouth, and to start repairing the teeth from the inside, rather than fluoride, which helps a little on the outside, or xylitol, which will help on the outside. The best thing to do is look within. Those are where your answers are. So that's what we have to do, even with our teeth. Look within, find out what's going on there. And then the last part of that with the oral health and like, let's say, nutrition in our mouth, but the mouth breathing, that's changing the pH of our mouth. It's drying it out. We no longer have the protection of our saliva. We also are more prone to bacteria and funguses because our saliva has part of the immune system in it. So we are changing the pH there. We're making ourselves more susceptible to chronic disease, and that will actually dry out the mouth. It'll give you more calculus, or more, sorry, in layman's term, calculus, which is that hard stuff like tartar, hardened plaque, that will come when the pH in our mouth shifts and it dries onto the teeth and it sticks on there. And then that will eventually trap in more bad bacteria, which can cause your body to create an immune system response. So it could either act as a reservoir for lots of bad bacteria, or now it's hardened into a foreign object in your mouth. Your body will respond to a splinter in your finger, right? Cause that pain, that swelling in our mouth. That hardened plaque is just like a splinter. So it's your body is saying, hey, that shouldn't be there. You get swelling, you get bleeding. If you have an opportunity for blood to get out of your mouth, you have an opportunity for the bacteria to go that same way and get into our body. We now have mouth bacteria floating through our immune system, or floating through our cardiovascular system. If you are someone who is prone to heart disease, or if you have a genetic disposition to strokes or Alzheimer's or diabetes or arthritis, whatever your weak link is, your immune system is going to attack that by mistake when it's trying to attack the bacteria that got into your blood from your mouth. So we can't say mouth bacteria cause heart disease. You can't say that, but it's linked together. And we have to wonder if the bacteria has been found in the lining of the arterial system, something is happening there. And so here's kind of more of a theory, because like I said, it's not causation, but if we have the bacteria that gets stuck in the lining of our blood vessels, the body has to make cholesterol to go and close that off. The cholesterol needs to block the invaders. So we now have more cholesterol in our blood system, trying to heal some kind of environmental thing that we created. So then over time, that can if we have a lot of it, it can break off, it can cause issues. So, the cholesterol is maybe a problem, but that's like blaming the firemen for starting the fire, because every time we see a house burning, there's fire trucks there. So we have to wonder, cholesterol, 90% is made by our body. Only 10% comes from food. If we have a lot of cholesterol in our body, it means we have a lot of stress, whether that's psychological stress, whether that's environmental stress, whether that's stress from the foods that we're eating, can come from many different ways. But one of the best things we can do if we are diagnosed with high blood pressure or high cholesterol, take a look at your life, right? If we actually think about cholesterol medication like Lipitor, there's this number needed to treat. So how many people have to take this medicine for one person to find benefit? Well, with Lipitor, it said, I don't know where this study came from. I have a really bad recall with that. But in order for, let's say, you to benefit from Lipitor or some form of cholesterol pill, 100 people won't respond. Now, let's go vitamin D, since I was just talking about vitamin D. 4 people let's say 5 people take it, 4 people won't benefit, but 1 person will. Those odds are way better than the 1 in 100.
Right.
So there's a lot that we can do just with the prevention side of things before it gets to a point where we have to step into pharmaceuticals to actually help us. Because by the time you get to that point where you need the medicine, I don't ever want to say, come off your medicine. Like we need that. If it's at that point now, we need that. My focus on how do we prevent us from needing that? So, those early signs, that low blood pressure, or you're getting up into pre-diabetes, like these are signs and symptoms, like this is where we can help now, right?
Right.
And so with the mouth and the whole body, that's that connection, that's that pathway into our body, and everyone will have a different predisposition to whatever disorder or disease or complication. differently.
Yes, absolutely. So if you were talking to, let's say, a mom with kids, what would you tell her to look for? And that would be a sign for you to maybe seek treatment or look for a myofunctional therapist.
Yeah. So definitely if your baby had a problem latching, any failure to thrive, definitely. Um, Whether or not they are snoring, children shouldn't snore. Sleep apnea should not be diagnosed in children. Um, so snoring is a big one. Whether or not at rest they have their mouth open or closed. Our mouth should be closed at rest. If we're not eating and speaking, a little bit of play now and then, like if they're running around the house, yes, it's an emergency vessel. If they're exhausting themselves, open mouth, fine. But maybe watch it when they're sleeping and when they're resting and watching TV, their mouth should be closed. That's a really early sign. Whether they're dealing with cavities, even though you're brushing their teeth and they are not eating a lot of sugar. So cavities, crowding teeth. As the teeth come in, if they're starting to get crowded, okay, don't wait until they're 12 to start repairing things. This is that opportunity you mentioned to see an orthodontist to start working on function. I had teeth removed. I had braces. My teeth moved back. I had Invisalign. I lost my retainer. My teeth moved again. So I actually am a candidate for this. I'm learning about all the things that I'm doing. I see
Me too.
asymmetries. I see the growth in my face where I'm like, oh my gosh, I had these issues as a child and I'm still dealing with them now and I'm still trying to repair them now. So yeah, so teeth crowding, wetting the bed, that like we mentioned earlier is because your body's not getting into proper sleep. Whether or not they're having food aversions, if they like a lot of soft food, if they have a hard time chewing food, well, they're used to processed food. They're used to maybe spoon feeding. They're not getting the proper jaw development. We really want to get kids like use it or lose it. As women, especially, we know the importance of lifting weights, especially as we age. We need to put pressure on the bone in order for our bones to respond and be able to not break under pressure, be able to hold us up so we don't, we can catch ourselves, so we can lift things. Our mouth is the same thing. Our tongue is one of the strongest muscles, I should say, not largest, but the strongest muscles. We have muscles, everything is connected. And in our face, our muscles are the only ones that are attached to our skin. So, even if you're a mom, I just got away from kids a little bit here, but if you're a mom and you're not happy with, like your chin causing a problem or you're seeing some lines and stuff, well, let's tone those face muscles up, just like you tone the rest of the body, and you'll be able to, find benefit that way, because muscle trumps bone. If you have the muscle not working properly and it's putting certain pressures and it's exerting more pressure in a certain area, the body is going to form to that. So crowded teeth are likely an issue of proper muscle and breathing function that's changing the shape of your jaw. So yeah, that would be same with acid reflux. I kind of missed that. And even behavioral issues. In children, behavioral issues are generally because they're really tired. And it's weird because we see them as overexcited. We see them having more energy. That is their body compensating. It's everything going crazy. But yeah, being diagnosed with ADHD and behavioral issues, maybe it's a sleep issue and maybe it's not, but what if it is? And this is something like when a child is 12 and under, especially, they haven't had years and years of doing the wrong functions like an adult would, or even a late teenager. It's so much easier to change the trajectory of your child when you get it at a young age. And the therapy is less too, because you're not just you're now setting up the proper growth, the optimal growth. You're not trying to reverse old symptoms, create new ones. So it's also a lot easier on a family. And if you have multiple kids, only one person needs it, you can get them working together and you can have prizes for them. And, you can have it exciting, like this is a challenge that they get to overcome. And believe it or not, children like this. Children like to have some form of control in their life, and they like when their parents give them the attention to sit down and help them do this. It gains the child can gain confidence as they grow. It's a huge part of development and gaining resilience in your child to be able to handle things when they get older, as opposed to breaking down when some kind of challenge, they come across a challenge. So it doesn't just help with form and function and chronic health, but it can have a huge emotional and mental health benefit as well. And
Well,
we all know the negative effects of mental health today, of all things. So
Well, and think of it as an adult when you're overtired, how you snap and you can't process and eat. I mean, there's been times where I've come home from work and my daughter wants something and I'm like, just give me a minute. Like, and I think it's just because I'm overly tired from the day. So you even need to think about that as a parent. If you're tired, how are you behaving? And that's what's happening with our kids. But we label it, or we want to put them on medications for things when it could be something that is easily diagnosed or fixed when they're younger. So that's why it's important. So we're not giving our kids medication that maybe has side effects that they didn't need, because we're calling it something else when it is just the fact that they're overtired. And you wouldn't think that they would act out that way, or that it would be that they're tired and not getting enough sleep, but it is. And again, that's just not something that's out there. We're still diagnosing kids a lot with ADHD instead of looking at their sleep patterns.
yeah, it's unfortunate. And as you mentioned in my bio, initially I was helping women that had low confidence and they just didn't feel right. Not even knowing at that time, I did know the importance of sleep. Part of my program is really focused on getting your sleep hygiene, but never thought about the child being an issue with that. I always just thought it was our racing mind, and not thinking that that child could be having a problem and the child is waking you up and you're not getting the sleep. So becoming a mom has been a huge growth for me personally, because I also learn how, I might be helping this mom, but really it was a child that needed help all along. So I'm able to look at the family as a whole, and I'm able to help that child grow better and succeed and become a functioning member of our society. And then the mom is also feeling better. And now the relationship with the spouse is better, because you're not just constantly at each other trying to like get things done. It's such a huge dynamic. And yeah, whoever thought that myofunctional therapy could be couples counseling,
Yeah.
but it really can be. And same with relationships with brothers and sisters, especially when there's three. There's always that odd man out. And this can create bonds, like family bonds that go really deep. And I just got shivers because I don't want to be like, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But our sleep and our breath are so important, and it does encompass all of those aspects of life. So in a way, this is the foundation, right? This should be the first step. It shouldn't be the last one. And
Exactly.
I really, really hope that that is where our medical care system goes. And, that I'm able to help more people, and that you're able to help more people, and the word gets out there, because it is essential to living. And we now know too how important it is to have that family life under good conditions. How many people are stuck in their home now with their children, and they're realizing like, oh my God, my children's a maniac. I thought it was a teacher that couldn't control them, but my child is crazy. And like, and you have all this, and you have the kids fighting in the background, and you're trying to do your work, and you're trying to maintain a healthy, loving relationship. So you're a good example for your children. And, like there's so many things that, could be all down to sleep. And why aren't you getting the best sleep? Because your facial muscles aren't working properly, and you're not actually getting the oxygen that you need at nighttime. And yeah, learning just this one thing.
Yeah. When you breathe through, I mean, we were meant to breathe through our nose. And when you breathe through your mouth, your nose now is not filtering that air. You're not getting nitric oxide. You're getting 18% less oxygen. And so, that affects you as well. And you're doing more shallow breathing when you're breathing through your mouth, and your tongue is probably not in the right position. So, I mean, there are some people that can't breathe through their nose, but there are a lot of people that even I've been working with, they think they can't breathe through their nose, but like we talked about earlier, your body compensates. So when you're breathing through your mouth a lot, sometimes your nose does get plugged because your body's like, okay, well, you're not using that. So it does get stuffy. And when you start breathing through your nose, you realize that wow, now it's not stuffy and I can breathe better, whereas I thought there was something wrong. And there's a couple of simple tests you can do to see if you can breathe through your nose, because we learned that if you can breathe through your nose for a minute, you can learn to breathe through your nose.
And yeah, that's a very good point about the science behind nose breathing versus mouth breathing. If you're breathing through your mouth, your body thinks it's in an emergency state. Plain and simple, your body is always in stress mode. An animal will pant, cool themselves down, do whatever they need to do because that's a survival mechanism. Mouth breathing is a survival mechanism, but we should turn that off. The problem with autoimmune conditions these days is because our immune system kicks on, it doesn't kick off. We need to have this off and on. We need to have a balance. If you're always breathing through your mouth, you're always in stress mode. Your body's never healing. So yeah, any way that you can learn how to breathe through your nose is going to change your life.
It is,
And
absolutely.
and the thing is, the thing with myofunctional therapy is you can learn to breathe through your nose, but if your tongue, you mentioned tongue position, if your tongue is not in the right position, your mouth is open a little bit, you don't realize, but you are getting some oxygen through your mouth, even though you think your nose breathing. So learning, actually strengthening up the tongue properly will help you create this suction in your mouth, this negative pressure, which prevents your mouth from leaking air in through your mouth. And that will cause long-term effects as well. So yeah, if you can fix your nose breathing, great. But if you can fix the whole mechanism, better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So on your website, you have different questionnaires that people can fill out to see what's happening, and they can submit those answers to you. So how do people get a hold of you and find you? And you have different things on your website. So kind of explain that and what people are looking for when they find you.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for that as well. Where I'm in Newfoundland, so I'm in a little tiny place up in the middle of nowhere, really. But everything is online now, and so much of this can be done online, and it makes it a lot more feasible for parents and children to do this work. So again, thank you for letting me share my information. I founded Mind, Body, Mouth. So it's a connection, planned to be like a multidisciplinary approach. But on Mind, Body, Mouth, there's information on coaching, but I have a page specific for myofunctional therapy as well. It's quite complex. So I put enough basic information on there. Anything further, people could contact me and have a quick consult, see whether or not it's, something that they want to do or not. You mentioned my questionnaires. They need to be updated. I'm a very passionate professional when it comes to business. That's when sometimes I can drop the ball. So I have not updated those questionnaires in a little while, but they are on, they're on Instagram, Mind, Body, Mouth Coach. People can do that, get an idea. I prefer they contact me even before those questionnaires. That way I know to look for the questionnaires, and I'll be able to then provide them the best information on a consult, rather than going through everything again. And, I don't want to waste people's time. It's a very fine resource. But Instagram is the place where you can find that. There's a little link tree thing, and there's a couple different questionnaires. So you can find a little bit about what I'm doing if you want to reach out to me for myofunctional therapy, or because you have chronic disease, or anything like that. There's different ones that you can answer those questions to. And during a consult, I'd be happy to go over all the information. I'm on Facebook as well, Mind, Body, Mouth. There's another Mind, Body, Mouth out there from Australia, though, so make sure you find the one from Canada, with the little, it's a mouth with a little logo, a person sitting on a mouth lotus thing, that I created. And yeah, Instagram, Facebook, my mindbodymouth.net.
Okay, that's awesome.
And email. So email is tiffany@mindbodymouth.net.
Awesome. I think that's great. There's so much information, and I think we could talk hours about, all the stuff that's out there. And I think we probably should do another one about vitamin D and calculus and things like that, just because, like I said, there's so much information, and you have a wealth of information. And I thank you for taking the time to share that with us. And I hope we can work together again in the future and do more podcasts to get this information out. And like I said, help as many people as possible, not only
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks again for reaching out. And So what was that? Sorry.
We can not only help patients, but other dental hygienists
Oh,
learn about this so that we can, again, reach more people. So it's not about being in competition with each other. It's sharing our knowledge and helping as many people as possible.
exactly. And yes, for any dental hygienists that are out there, that this is its own thing and it's hard work. It can't be really combined with dental hygiene. It's its own thing. You don't have to be overwhelmed. You can take courses in it. You can be interested in it. You can refer them to the right people. If you don't have the time or the desire to do the therapy, sitting chair side with somebody is great. Like I love that aspect of my hygiene as well. But there'll be two different things and they have to be two different things. So for any professionals that are listening, please learn about it, learn the signs and send them to someone that can help them.
Absolutely. That is awesome. I thank you again for taking the time and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And you know where to get a hold of Tiffany if you would like to work with her. She is out there. And like she said, it is on Zoom. So even though we're thousands of miles away, we can still help each other. So feel free to contact that. It will be in the link below or on the link in the podcast. So just go ahead and click on that and it'll take you right to her.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.